Order. Question number 11. Grant Robertson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Associate Minister of Finance. Does she have confidence in the trustees of the Community Trust of Southland?
The Honourable Amy Adams.
While I'm aware of concerns that have been raised, the advice I've had is that based on the information received to date and my limited role under the Community Trusts Act, no formal action by me is appropriate at this time, and accordingly the question of confidence does not arise.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Why has she refused to launch an investigation into the Community Trust of Southland despite being formally asked to do so by 2 former chairs of the Trust, 3 former deputy chairs of the Trust and 4 former members of the Trust who represent a period covering 1988 to 2015 in their membership?
The Honourable Amy Adams.
Well, Mr Speaker, first of all, I would point out that I haven't refused. I have said the information provided to date doesn't reach the threshold that would be required. And secondly, I point out to the member that under the Community Trusts Act, I have very limited responsibilities which focus on the appointment of trustees, decisions on adjustments to trust areas, trust mergers and the establishments of new trusts.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question. Grant Robertson.
What has she done to verify if the allegations made in the letter to her of an irregular process in the exit of the Chief Executive and potential conflicts of interest from the trustees?
The Honourable Amy Adams.
Well, Mr Speaker, I'd repeat what I said in the previous answer about my very limited role under the Community Trusts Act. What I would say to the member is that I received advice from the administering agency, which is the Department of Internal Affairs, who have advised me that I follow the process that I have followed, which is to indicate that at this time the information provided doesn't establish any grounds for an investigation. What was discussed was essentially an employment issue, and for me to be involved in that, the advice I've had would not be appropriate.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Would she change her decision about an investigation if it were established that the departure of the Chief Executive came about as a result of a letter from the Chair of the Trust stating that the trustees had made a decision that the Chief Executive should resign, even though no formal decision was taken to do that?
The Honourable Amy Adams.
Mr Speaker, the advice that my officials have given me is that the threshold for mounting an investigation would be specific allegations and basis relating to governance failures, financial mismanagement or illegal activity. What I have done is written to the Trust Chair and made it very clear that my expectations are that the Trust is managed appropriately in accordance with good governance standards, and I've written to the complainants and asked them to give me any further advice that they want to bring to my attention and said that I'd be very happy to consider that.
Supplementary question. Grant Robertson.
Has she or anyone from her office discussed the specific allegations in the letter from the former trustees with the current chair of the Trust or any other trustees?
The Honourable Amy Adams.
Mr Speaker, well, I just said in my previous answer that I have written to the current the current chair of the Trust and made it very clear that I have received that letter and that I expect the Trust to be managed to the highest standards of governance and professionalism, and I set out my expectations to her very clearly.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Is the reason that she has decided not to investigate the Trust that those who have driven the CEO out have close links to the National Party and that the chair of the Trust is also the chair of the Clutha Southland National Party?
Insofar as this ministerial responsibility, order, the Honourable Amy Adams. Insofar as this ministerial responsibility.
Mr Speaker, I completely refute that. The basis for my decision is exactly as I've set out, which is on the basis of the advice I've received from my officials and my very limited role under the Community Trusts Act.
Order. Question number 12, Dr. Parmjeet Parmar.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is